Hey, it's Dr. J, and welcome to our business tips and also interview with an expert. Now, every now and then I bump into an expert, and I'm part of the a partnership club. And we had an intensive just the other day, and I had the delight of actually talking to Claudio, it's Conte, and we were talking about what he does, and I was actually intrigued because all of us have websites, all of us have branding issues, and all of us want to be out there in the marketplace. And I was talking to Claudio and actually asking him a few questions about what he does, and it was really unique. And by having things that are unique and done a little bit differently, I find that it's always good to do a bit of a deep dive. So I've asked lots of questions, and I'm actually intrigued of what he did. And he has some great things to increase conversion, reduce your risk, and actually get your website actually making money for you. So welcome, Claudio, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate that and the lovely introduction as well.
Look, your company is called a Spiral Orb Design, and you've been in business now for about 4 years. And before that, you were helping lots of people building their websites and getting their technology side of their business up and running. So, why don't you give us a little, let's say, a Reader's Digest version of how you got involved in this huge world of web design and technology?
Cool. Okay, so for us to get right into that part, we take back to what I actually did in my previous business. I was a fitness professional, so I ran a mindset and fitness business, and I delved deep into the psychology side of working with people. I really had a love and a big passion for that. Uh, while I was doing that, I am a bit of a techno geek, so I did do a lot of my own websites build, and I helped a lot of people along the way. There came a time where I realized that if I wasn't doing one to one, and something had happened in the world, that I would have no business. So I did move online, and I created a membership portal, and that was a very lucrative and exciting and amazing opportunity that I did there. What I did find had happened was that I got so busy that I had to outsource. And I was convinced I needed marketing and a whole team behind it. I had raised $4,500 in about 40 days, and that was to go to the community. Out of fear, I put that money back into that, hoping that I'd get a return. I then learned that my website was done overseas. I was spending a lot of money. My brand was completely lost. It was just a template. And I tried to justify it by the cost until I eventually just faced it, uh, took it all down and rebuilt it. And it was at that point a good friend who is a client of ours now as well, and she's gone global. She suggested that we get started. Sorry, to do more into the websites. I ran the numbers, I did the thinking about it, and I realized I could contribute a lot more. And so from that, that's how I started it. I was a burnt client, so I knew how to speak to people, and I knew that when I did this company, that no one would ever be burnt again, and everybody would be well educated when they worked with us.
Look, I must say that a lot of people, when they want to get their website, they've got limited budgets, and they'll say, well, we'll go to some of these online people that bid for work, and all of a sudden they get their template and it's not what they want, and then they want things fixed, and it's really difficult to get things changed. And I've actually done it myself in the early days, and it's an absolute nightmare. So you've learned from being a burnt client, and now you've got a business that is flourishing and helping many people with their websites and also their branding, because it's a big part. It goes hand in hand, doesn't it? So I
Yes.
want to ask you a big question here. So I call it a big rock question. In your opinion,
Sorry.
what must a website do?
So essentially, there's a couple of parts. The main part of it is that it needs to be future paced to where your business is going. So if someone comes across your website, it has to give the impression that you're already in the future of what you're looking to create. Say that as I started a web design company, I had to already have looked like that I had a firm and everything that came along with that. And of course, the right team came along and the right clients came along. And that's how you are able to tell when it's time to redo, evolve the website too. So that's one part. The second part is relativity to your actual industry and brand and what you're aiming to do, i.e. conversions for the websites. There's no point in just having a pretty website if it has no psychological meaning behind how you want your users to engage it. A lot of web people also don't utilize the website to the full capacity of different touch points on that. And that means from the very moment that they land on the website, branding is so effective in that sense because depending on how you lay things out, the colors, the visuals, all of these should, on a branding level, should be connected up deeply to who your ideal person that is coming there. And I say person because it's not just an ideal client or a customer. A lot of people look at it that way, but your website would be bringing in potential partners. Like we had a great partner who had 300 clients find our website and said, you guys are exactly who we're looking for. 300 clients who all needed website redesigns. And so these are the potentials of thinking of what does a website can actually do and how do you set it up so that those types of people come into the picture too. So they're the couple things.
Now, there's a lot of things when I hear people talk about websites and technology, what people should do. They should do this and they should do that. For me, as someone that's not a technology wizard, I go, I should do this and I should do that. And it becomes like, oh, so much overwhelmed, like I don't do anything. I go into rigor mortis. So given that there are some, like you talk about colors and branding and so forth and functionality, what are some of the biggest mistakes? And give us some examples of those sorts of things, like a branding mistake, or a configuration mistake, or a usage mistake. What are some of the big mistakes? And give us some examples of that, so some of the guys and girls out there that are listening, they can say, "Oh, that's me. That's a mistake," so they can say, "I need some help there."
Okay, cool. Great question. So we'll break it down in the first part with the branding side of things, because this is very easy for people to resonate with. Say that the way that you present your logo or the colors, say that you are more of a soft person or a soft business when it comes to the way that you present, but you may have chosen a more blockier image of a logo and that's not really sought for. Maybe you liked it because it resembles or resonates with something else that you might like. If someone comes across that, though it's not obvious from a conscious, on an unconscious, there's a disconnect. To make this, because now we're entering brand symbology, this is the most easiest way to understand it for anyone. When you want a brand new car, you start to see that car everywhere. What is the difference between you purchasing a Toyota Corolla and you purchasing a Tesla? When I say Tesla, what do you think? And how do you see? Is it smooth? Is it clean? And when I say Corolla, what's it like? Now, but at the end of the day, it's a car. And so you could just say at the end of the day, it's a logo. And at the end of the day, it's the colors of how your website, people enter. It's a website. People just go there. It's how you use it. It's how you drive it. And so that's what I would call the perfect example of realizing that and being able to actually step back and look at it. If the person or the individual or the company, when they built your logo, don't really go into the depths of your business brand, the symbology behind it, and connect the dots on how are you getting what your brand represents and what you're trying to achieve through all the dot points in a human's mind so that they understand and that there's no disconnect. If you sell chickens and I come to the website and I see a big yellow duck, I'd be like, what? But it's a bird. So, that's just a random thing just coming up, but that's one element.
Does color, like you're talking logos and so forth, like I know that when we've done our websites and so forth, we got a brand like a palette. It was like the fonts, the colors that goes with the logo. We have a reverse logo. We have a logo which is a landscape. We have a portrait. We have a reverse logo, and it has a theme to it where you use the fonts and colors as much as possible that resonates with their brand. Now, as you can see, our brands are that purple and gold, or that yellowy gold. And in our National Sales Academy, it's blue and cerise. It has they're completely different, and the fonts are different. Is that the sort of thing with branding you're talking about?
Yes, 100%. There are two parts, and a lot of designers won't be as comfortable for this part. So I consider myself as a branding specialist. That's my title. And the difference between a branding specialist and a brand designer is the designer grabs the ideas and brings the pictures into life. They do the fonts, they do the colors, but they need that story to come from somewhere. A branding specialist is the one who story tells. Now, we as human beings, and since tribal days and societies, we grow with stories. Business is storytelling, sales is storytelling, everything is storytelling. So you need to have whether it's a professional or the actual concepts that underlie everything and what the logo outcome comes out of. That's where it should stem from, because it's easy to just be like, I can use an example of dentistry. So we've got a couple of dentistry clients, and if one is very environmental, so wants to be able to plant a certain amount of trees across all of Australia, while another one will just be more profitable based. And there's nothing wrong with either or, but if I go, okay, cool, let's build the logo that represents something visionary and big, or something that harbors essence of that pure vision at the bottom of what they've actually created in the foundation, then the rest of it, the people that are attracted, the teams, the growth of that again, no right or wrong, they both will grow, but it's in the foundation, opposed to, okay, you're a dentistry, let's do a tooth, or let's do, light colors, and that's it. So that's the depth of the brand.
So with the logo is one thing, and people overuse the logo. I've noticed, and we have a couple of other experts in our circle to say, well, sometimes when you've got everything splashed with your logo, that doesn't fly. If you're a representative of quality, you can have something of quality, maybe with a subtle color that mixes with your brand. So as long as if you're a quality product, always buy the expensive stuff. And you don't have to have your logo plastered on it, but the logo actually is a good place to start, and then having the colors and font to go with it. So, okay, so there's some mistakes made in there, and some people just go for gold and don't have any thought about it. What's another big mistake that people make with their websites?
So we like to say great design marries great copy. And copy, for those who don't know, is the text that comes into your website. Now, the text, every part of the text of your website is selling. It's selling the business. And the way that it's structured is so crucial and important, because how everyone lands on the website and what they are more in tune to. Maybe some people want to be more connected to your team. So the style of how you actually have written about your team, and how everyone's bio is written, the uniqueness to that, or coming into the website, going straight to the point, the pain points, how that's delivered. A lot of people, they might tend to write it themselves and say, yeah, this is how it is, just to save some money. But again, this is all based on, at the end of the day, what you want your website to do. Now, if you just want your website to just be there in the background because you're getting a million referrals and you just need a website, then so be it. But that optimization will just, again, going back to thinking bigger than just customer and client and partner. Imagine what partnerships you can present, or opportunities that can come through. That's one of the biggest key things, is opportunities. Like, we have a case study of a client who we branded, and 7 months later, he's got his own international TV show. And so, like, he did the hard work for that, sure, yes. But the brand and the connection and the way that things were laid out, and all the positioning and the setup, and him doing that, opposed to someone else sharing that industry and having just a regular thing without the brand all marrying up across the websites and everything, the possibility could nowhere be near as much as, or as quickly as that vision comes to life. So, yeah.
So when it comes down to this copy, now, I personally, I just like copy. Back in the olden days, we had the old static websites where they just had a ton of copy, a few pictures. It was just a sea of words. I've noticed that over the last, say, 2 to 3 years in particular, it's like less is best. And it should be a little bit of copy. And if you want to know more, click it and pops down a bit, but it's more of a picture. And it's the copy is very succinct and cuts to the chase. And it's a less is best. And it's not just branding to what the product is actually with the people behind it. What's the story of the person that's driving the business? Who's the figurehead? And what's their story? That's, I've been told, and I've noticed quite regularly now, that this is a very good way of actually creating a brand, and also having less text. And if you want to know more about Bobby or Mary, it drops down, but it's talking about that person, what they stand for, their purpose, and for years we've been doing vision, mission, and so forth, but and values. But is that the way of getting that sort of feel across, and having a picture of the director or the founder, and have a little bit of dialogue and maybe one or two of the key people? It's just a little bit of background on, not a whole book on it, but it's a little bit, and if they want to know more, it drops down. Is that the type of thing that I've noticed a lot of people still have tons of text about their product, but it's nothing about the person?
Yes, 100%. We call that an origin story. Super powerful. And essentially one of the key things that helps grow brands really strongly and connects to people. We dedicate an entire page just for the origin. And just like how you said it, ours is just a couple of words and there's a presentation. And our particular brand is based around a spider, which is found up in Queensland, the golden orb weaver. And so we like to educate, but using psychology, connect how this particular spider is correlates to the person who's reading it, whether they've been burnt, whether they're fear of spiders, just like fear of web developers. There's this correlation. But that particular spider is one of the top 10 friendliest spiders. But we got to teach that. So the way that those are laid out, yeah, definitely, it's one of the most clicked parts of the website, because that's what separates your business from every other business. So yeah, they're definitely. Otherwise, as you said, if we put a product up, that's the what. Like I build websites, so does thousands of other people. But the type of website we build and why we build and how we build it, that has to speak to a specific person, and only the backstory and the origin story can really connect that up to the person.
So the listeners can actually take this down and say, oh, look at your website. Are you a figurehead? Is someone a figurehead? Is the founder? Who started it? Why did you start it? What was the reason? What was your mantra to actually, how are you going to help people make change? And maybe have a little bit of a story of where you started, not too long at the beginning, but if they want to click down, they can have a look at it. I wonder how many of you guys out there listening have any info on you that's been written by a copywriter. Now, this is my next question. Having someone understand you as a person and then writing your copy. On a personal note, I find that I work with a copywriter that knows me personally, has used our brand and knows my words. Do you find that that's a mistake when people just type it up themselves, or just get some person on Upwork or whatever just to type up the copy? Do you think there needs to be that connection? Sure, have some input, but get a good copywriter?
Yep, 100% I do. Unless you are a copywriter yourself. Like I grew up on writing, so for us it's that. But we don't have copywriters in-house, because I think that needs to be a standalone company where people really put a lot of effort and love into that. And yeah, to be written from expertise who have great PR background. They already foresee how it needs to be written, how you need to be seen. You won't have the unless you have the skill set, you wouldn't have the ability to be able to write yourself from that perspective. Like, yeah,
that's a big deal. I think a lot of people have websites that needs a bit of work on their copy. I'm sure you've got some great copywriters that can recommend. So do we. So guys, think about who wrote your copy and how does it depict your language? Do you have some little quirky phrases you use? And there's some things that is about you. Remember, people buy people and feelings, not just a product.
That's right.
Now, design. Lots of lovely, pretty designs out there, my friend. And as you know, you're in that world. Versus outcomes and functionality. Now, I've seen some wonderfully designed stuff, but they actually do absolutely nothing. We call them static websites that look very pretty. When you punch any buttons and so forth, it doesn't take you anywhere, and they just are a pretty picture. Now, I know they're called landing pages in a lot of cases, but how important is it to have an outcomes really clear and defined and have the functionality that is easy to utilize on the website?
Super important. You kind of have to imagine that people, or imagine and look at it as that people won't actually know how to fully use a website or what actually goes behind it. It's easy to click on a popular website you tend to go to, or when you're shopping. Let's use Facebook as an example. You get a sponsored ad, you click on a button, it's to sell something. You go through really quickly. Before you know it, you've already purchased something. But how much functionality was involved in all that process? To you, it was very simple in that aspect of it, but there was a lot of thought process behind it. An example, we had someone approach us because they wanted to tap into a new market, a younger market, and they're selling a product. And we went to their website. It was as simple as they got the very similar Shopify sequence happening, but the very foundation of it, which was the text, the positioning, the colors, the how you would click on it, and the way that it was presented, that wasn't on point. So if a user's looking at it and you're looking at selling a particular product that's your best seller, then that needs to stand out, and that really needs to have an emphasis to how you make it, the use of it, so people will click on that and run through that. That's outcome based. To have that thought, opposed to, okay, we'll just put that couple of plugins here, and then all of a sudden you just expect people to just go through all that and click that. Design outcome together are important. Separately, you would succeed a little bit more with an outcome focused, but it's thinking in a modern world, or how things are modern. If something looks really outdated or doesn't sit right, do you trust the purchase? Even if the functionality outcome is so perfect, do you trust going through all that? Chances are it's very, very easy. Just click the X and leave it in the cart. And if you don't have a great CRM system that, again, functionality to follow up with that, then you've just lost a sale.
Yeah, look, you're right there. I've got a couple of our clients have very old websites, very old fonts, Times Roman, that sort of stuff. However, they keep them running, and because it looks very simple, easy to navigate. The functionality is the outcome and functionality is very easy. The back end was, I wouldn't have a clue, but it still works. But they have said that it looks very tired and the font needs to change. They also said to me the other day that it needs a bit of work. Too much text, so you might need to talk to them. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the different things we were talking about earlier. I've just got a few notes here. Branding, lead generation, and sales. When it comes to a website, you want to have someone to click on there. I've heard lots of people talking into their Google things where there needs to be a double click to actually have ranking. So they go click, click. So if it only goes to one page and it sits there, it doesn't register or anything like that. So they got to go click, click. So I want to know that, click and then buy it, click, and then actually that's called a double click component. So branding, get it out there and make sure you're existing. There's a thing called AdWords and SEO that goes with that, I'm sure. On the other side of the equation, to generate leads, how important is it to have something on the front page if they want to have an opt-in, a free thing, or an education process where they can click the button and then go straight to the opt-in page to get the freebie? So they can obviously maybe buy something later, get a call, get some more stuff, drop down boxes, and if they can purchase stuff, so they make a sale. Now, sometimes it's just to create a lead. Sometimes for some websites it's to make a sale. So the functionalities of the website, branding, lead generation, and sales. In our world, we want leads and sales. We want people to make some money and so forth. In your experience and expertise, how can we get the websites to have get out there that people know that people exist. I think that's got a lot to do with SEO and how long you've been on the website. And if they want to generate a lead, should it be on the front page? Should it be the first thing they see on the right-hand side? If they want to create a sale, should that be on the front page? So it's in the first fold, I think it's called, and not having to scroll. What's your thoughts on that?
So the very first thing, which would be, let's say, for the opt-in, right? So we start off with opt-in because there's a few things there. The less risk it is, the less steps you want, right? So if the thing you give is sort of such a high value, but it's not really a high risk for them, like let's say just leave an email address, there shouldn't really be much steps. If you can encapsulate that pretty quickly with a nice document or a booklet, like a visual of that, and then the text that hits the pain points, I call it the unknown, unspoken pain points, you can hit that right away, then sure. The actual magic in that is the sequencing that happens after that. If you think just getting a book, or they click a button and they download the book and then they're going to read it and action on it, that's not how it works. But the follow-up process of emails coming through, which is, again, well written with copy and different touch points. I'll need some water, sorry.
It's all right. I'm just thinking about the touch point. So we get an opt-in. Someone says, I want, let's say, that ebook or sales guide or marketing guide. They go, yeah, they put their stuff in, then after that, they'll receive a thank you page or a thank you for downloading. So that needs to be sequenced into the website. And in that thank you page, you say, here, click here now, here's your ebook or your sales guide. Here's some, and by the way, if you'd like something else, click here, click here, click here. So there's that response. And after they receive that, there should be an autoresponder where they go and get some emails. And in our group, as you know, there's a 14-day sequence where they go through value, ask, value. Is that the sort of thing that should be connected to the website? And do you have to have a CRM or like Active Campaign or those sorts of things connected to your website?
100%. Yep. A CRM complements a website really well. It's one thing, it's where we always tend to follow up. Now, the second part that you mentioned with the SEO, the interesting thing about with a website is you have many, many ways of different styles of marketing to use the website. You don't need to do all of them. You don't need to do Google ads, SEO, Facebook ads, webinars, whatever the case is, just to drive traffic. You can pick one or two depending on the business that you're in and really just hone in on that. No matter what, every website should have lead magnets. They should have different touch points on how to get there. Not everything has to be front end seen or shown either. A CRM system works really nicely because when you understand, and for those, a CRM system, a client relationship management system, that's how you do your newsletters. Most people will know MailChimp, but they're just sending out newsletters. The part of the CRM that's important is segmenting. To break it down, segmenting is if you download my book and I have a couple of links in the emails I send out, and let's say one of the links says, here's an article about website security, right? And you click on that article. Then there's a tag that goes to your name that says, clicked on this article on security. Now, let's say I sent that to 1,000 people and 300 people clicked on that article. Because you all have that tag, I can now send a personal email, a newsletter email as with your MailChimp, specifically to those people with specific sales marketed to them. So because I know that they have more of an interest of understanding security, and therefore I can sell or give value to those people until they click other links. And then maybe they want to be fine-tuned even more in that. And so then when it comes to the actual sale email, there is a high conversion rate, and specifically opposed to just sending it to the whole database and everyone's unsubscribing.
So you're saying that each page should be tagged into your CRM so you can then send them the autoresponder that would relate to that page.
Yeah, in the email.
Right.
The email.
And so, you mentioned Facebook because do you think it's important for everybody to have the Facebook, the Instagram, and LinkedIn Pixel inserted in the back of their website, irrespective of whether they do Facebook ads or not, because I've had two ports of call here. I said, just stick them in. But other people say, oh, you don't need it because you're not using it at the moment. But I thought that sooner or later you're going to do something on Instagram, or you can also do your copycat marketing and remarketing, where people have gone there on Facebook. Would you suggest that the Instagram Pixel, Facebook Pixel, and the LinkedIn Pixel be put into a website from the get-go?
Yeah. Yep. Well, you're setting it up, and if you already know that that's the direction of your industry that goes, it makes sense. Even just as it's collecting data, the same thing as analytics. Like every website, we automatically associate and put onto Google Analytics. We don't do so much the Facebook side of things until requested, but with Google and Analytics, no matter what, people are, if they hit the website, that's getting tracked. And so, yeah, it's better to have data from the start than to decide later and be like, oh, let's get it on then, and then start from there.
I had a person actually wanted to start Facebook ads, and they said, oh, let's start to Facebook. And they said, oh, let's check out your website. And they said, let's see how many people we can do the SCL file or whatever it was called. And it wasn't there. So they had to then get the Pixel, stick it on there, wait a while, and then actually have to move forward. And it was a bit of a problem. Now, the other thing you just mentioned was Google Analytics. Now, I remember many years ago, someone said to me, oh, just check out, see if your Google Analytics is all set up. And it wasn't. So some people think it's automatic, but that's not the case, is it? It has to be set up to make sure that the Google is linked to your website. Is that right?
Yep. Every website we build on a staging site. So there's parts in the development field, and in this phase, you would build in a staging site so that if you already had an active website, it's not going to get affected. And if you didn't, either way, you could always look at this and tweak it. Then we do what we call a soft launch. A soft launch is a migration over to the main site so that the site is now live. Anyone who goes to the URL of your website, it's up. But then there is between the soft launch and the live launch, when you publicly announce it, we call it post-development work, and there is a key things to do. And setting up analytics, and even though we don't do SEO, we prepare the website so it's ready for SEO. Because again, if that's a strategy someone wants to take on, and they go to a company, or it's already there ready to go, they just need the people in place to action on that. So
it's music to my ears, because I know a lot of our clients, when we've asked about their Facebook pixels or whether their Google Analytics is ready, they've got these unprepared websites. So they've had it running for a while. They can't get any data. They don't know what to change. And I think what you're saying is a big deal. Guys, listen to what Claudio is saying here. What he's saying is get all of the things done in case you need to go into SEO using AdWords, and you're going to start measuring them. Don't wait until I think it's time to do it. And I only found out about it 6 months ago that you need to have not just your Facebook pixel, but you need to have an Instagram pixel and a LinkedIn one, and not just one pixel. So listen to what the expert's saying here. Now, we're running out of time, mate. I mean, I could talk to you for hours, but there's a couple of other things I'd like to look at. Is what are two big things that we must look at to make sure that the website is generating inquiry? For instance, talked about SEO a bit, the thing of keywords, making sure your keywords are being told, and I'm no expert here, that the keywords need to match your subheadings. And the subheadings is really important. That if you're doing business, for instance, in Brisbane, you've got to have a page on there that with a few towns in Brisbane that Google will register that's in Brisbane. If you do something in Melbourne, you need to have a page that says that you do things in Melbourne, and just say we do business. If you're doing it nationally, you've got to have pages there. So having keywords and making sure that they're actually linked to the phrases and the subsections inside the copy with the places you want to turn up in, for instance, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, or whatever. What are some of the big things that people need to do to sort of maybe just have a look at after they listen to this?
Very first thing, which a lot of people who aren't, if they don't have professionals doing it, don't put text in images. You can't register that. Um, there's always like crawl bots, they call them, and they basically scan everything. And that's how you get ranked and register, provided, of course, everything back end is already set up. An SEO company, a good one, will create the pages for you and have that. We're working with a client where we did some work for them in the past, and then they worked with an SEO company, and years later they've come back. They have hundreds of pages, but they messed around well too much on their own, and so there's all these pages that need to be fixed up and worked on. But that's still the byproduct of SEO coming into the picture. Again, how you use it is going to determine, like, if you drive traffic because you choose to a platform like LinkedIn or Facebook to grow, to get people to a landing page or to get people to a part of your website, then you're going to create that traffic organically from that anyways. The fine tuning of that, I always recommend, comes after it. That's where the conversation for, again, if it's SEO that you go specific, like we never went too big on SEO for us. We just knew about and understood the simplicity of just making sure that the keywords are set in place correctly, which anyone can do. It's not very difficult. It's just that if we were to go more advanced, then we would reach out to.
Look, anyone can do it, but I can assure you, anything like me, I would have no. Look, I could do it if I was taught, but I haven't got the time to learn how to do it. So you're saying here, get your keywords sorted out, and you get someone to do it for you. Just go in there and type in your keywords. That would be somewhere to start. But get an expert to actually do this. Now, there are lots of things that people need to do, and I know that you have a very, very a simple and easy thing that people can do, and it's getting a checklist of things that could go wrong, that maybe are malfunctioning, you don't even know are happening in the back end. Give us a little bit of insight on how your checklist works and how we could get a checklist.
Yeah, so we have a few different sectors with us, and it all is prime based on the security of your assets, your digital assets. Like, we work with visionaries and business professionals who are growing. So essentially, these become valuable as time goes on. And so a lot of people don't actually have proper security plans in checks, like your backing up system, or if your website's hacked, how do you fix it? Security checks, all these elements. So we do have a section for that. It then transfers over to the web design aspect of it, but more so the conversion of web design. Does the website do what you wanted it to do from the beginning, right? A lot of people think straight away website is just to bring in customers, but now, after watching this, you know that you could use it for a lot more. Is it relative? Is it modern? Is it conveying to your vision, which then obviously goes into branding? Is your branding still relative? Your mission statement, all these elements in an ever evolving environment, and being so connected to how the environment revolves. Like, are you still talking as if it was 10 years ago, or are you still relative to now? And then that then transcends into the CRM aspect of it. How well are you using your CRM system? Do you even have a CRM system? If not, why? And these are the questions that the checklist all covers. So it's only a couple minutes to go through. It depends on like how in depth you want to go. And that checklist then spits out a number that basically, if you get a certain score, then you're probably doing really well and you wouldn't need an audit, which is what we do. However, if you're low on that, it's a great consideration to then look at that. And that's obviously a whole thing that we do there too. But the checklist is more of a reality check to see, wow, these are the elements that I had either no idea or I'm doing really well when it comes to my digital assets and my digital growth for my business.
Okay, so the checklist will go through what were you saying, security, making sure that everything is all of those little licenses are right and people can't hack, and having the right plugins are up to date and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of things I know from personally, we've had things that have gone awry because they weren't up to date. So that was one of them. The other one was to making sure that we checked to make sure that the CRM is connected effectively and everything's working well there. And what was the third one?
The conversion of the website. Is it doing what you intend it to do? Is it, yeah, is the intention there, and is it working for you? Is it kept relative? How well aware are you behind the psychology of the website and its use?
Conversion is the key. That's one of our mottos. And if we're not converting, we're not actually growing. So, hey, how can our listeners grab one of these checklists? How much do they cost?
Well, normally with the checklist, we charge them at, along with the audit, at $1,500.
Wow.
For you though, we're doing the checklist just for free, so you can have the checklist for that.
Repair. That's great. So, all right. Well, I'll have to get some details from you for our guys to get the checklist to make sure they're all on track. Now, let's say everything is great, then I'll have tick a few boxes, and that's good. And you said it doesn't take too long. You're not going to connect it to a must-do, so I really appreciate that. That's awesome. But what if there's some big Swiss cheese holes there? We've talked about an audit and so forth. So, what's entailed in an audit, and does an audit go through and find out how to fix things, I take it?
Yep. So essentially we have 3 guys on the team who will go through the audit. Though you speak to only one, it's 3 that is happening. So you'll have our web design sector that actually runs through your entire website and breaks down everything that you need to be updating for the website to make it better for conversion. So this is a document you've received that, whether you choose to go through us or through someone else, it doesn't matter, or later down the track, you'll have everything you need to know for why your website's not working and what you need to do to make it work. That's one part.
Okay, so it's actually a non-obligatory process where they'll do a lot of work behind it. You'll say where the holes are, whether you use your company or another company. It's a document, which is a dynamic document, which tells people what to do. What's the investment for that?
So altogether, it's $250 for the audit. And that's just one part, right? So we do then have also the hosting element. We see what you're paying for your hosting. There are a lot of companies out there that will take advantage of you, and then we play comparison. A lot of our clients who are on our webcare, we offer free hosting, which is VPS. So I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it's a very more prestige server opposed to your shared hosting where you're kind of just bunched up with heaps of websites.
You know, I must say there's a lot of our clients who they've been on hosting, which is, it gets so incredibly slow. It's just terrible, and it's a real challenge.
Yeah, and then there's 2 parts to the one part is that you pay for what you get with those shared very big, large corporation companies, and the other part is that sometimes when you work with a little more smaller companies or individuals, they do take your wallet for a ride, and based on what they actually give you. So we actually look at that and then play comparison, see, oh, you actually got something good, or you know what, you're getting stinged.
So if they do an audit, it's only $250. They very generously let us do the checklist and no bolts onto all the other things. They're going to save them a small fortune there. And if they do any business with you, they'll get some free hosting on this wham bam, thank you ma'am type of server, which allows them to have the speed and the security they're looking for. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, how can people get hold of you and have a look at your website? Give us some, say it nice and slowly, because guys, get your pen out and write some stuff down. I will put it in the copy, but tell us where can people get hold of you? Do you have a Facebook a page to jump onto? Phone numbers? How can they get hold of you?
Yeah, so 2 parts. One part, you can find me directly on LinkedIn, and you can just search my name up. So it's Claudio Conte.
So it's just spell it for everybody. So if there's anyone like me, I'll make a mistake there.
So CLAUDIO, and then my second name, Conte, CONTE.
Terrific. That's on LinkedIn. Terrific. And where else can we look?
And you can also find our website. So that's www.spiralorbdesigns, spiralorbdesigns.com.au. And you can find all of our hosts, our work, and everything we've explained, you'll be able to see in action through our website as well.
And Can you give us a link to that checklist? Is that a possible? We can get that sorted out when we publish our interview and all the good stuff we've talked about today.
Yeah, definitely. 100% we can do that.
So guys, I'll put all those links and the things, if you didn't have your pen handy, might have been listening in the car, so you can get hold of Claudio and actually have a look at spiralorbdesign.com.au. Well, look, mate, thank you so much for coming on today. As I said, I could speak to you for hours. You've answered every question and give us some absolute golden nuggets. So I really appreciate your time, mate. It's been outstanding.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Steve, for having me.
All right, gang, what are you going to do? How's your website? How's it working? I think it's a good idea if we all have a checklist. I know we are. And what I suggest you do is see if it's doing what you want it to do. Got tons of notes here. What are you going to action? Is your security right? Is the functionality right? You're getting the leads. Is there a little page about you? Having that foundation of what you stand for, all the things that we take for granted. Are your colors right? And all of the things that you stand for, does it exuberate that out into the marketplace? Action is everything. So make sure you take some action, reach out to Claudio and actually get him to give you that checklist, very generously giving to us and to you guys completely for free. And if you need an audit, just $250, and then you'll have a document where you kick some goals. All right, guys, let me know what you have put into practice. Put it in the comments down below, and then we'll continue with some more experts in the next few weeks. I'm Dr. J. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.